You are listening to episode 195 of the Autism Mom Coach. Autism Changes You, Part 2. Welcome to the Autism Mom Coach Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Kra. I am a lawyer, a life coach, and most importantly, I am the full-time single mother of a teenager with autism. In this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools and strategies you need so you can fight like hell for your child without burning out. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I am so glad you are here, and I hope you are doing well. This week's episode is a part 2. Last week, I talked about how autism may not change who our children are, but they definitely change who we are in so many good ways. But it's not all good. And that is what I wanted to talk to you about today, the other side of it. Because not all of the changes are positive. Some of them are necessary. Some of them are normal responses to an abnormal level of stress. But that does not make them healthy. And that's what I want to talk about, because if we only focus on the growth and never acknowledge the cost, in fact, even some of the positives like the resilience, the advocacy, the adaptability, they have another side. Advocacy can turn into being constantly in battle mode. Resilience can turn into isolation. And adaptability can turn into tolerating conditions that truly require intervention. So let's get into it. First, there is the hypervigilance. When you're parenting a child with significant behavioral challenges and complex needs, we are constantly scanning for danger. We are reading the room. We're reading our children's body language, and we are anticipating anything that might set them off at any given moment. Because of this, our brains stay on high alert because in our world, the next crisis could be seconds away. But the thing is that this is not the best. This turned on stress response all of the time, raised cortisol levels. This is what makes us sick. Now, while this might feel smart and necessary, and sometimes it is, it also creates a situation where we are never relaxing. We are always on. And that chronic state of stress, that sustained stress, that's what makes us sick. That's what makes us. And while this hypervigilance seems necessary, and in some ways very much is, it's not great for our bodies. We don't know how to turn it off. When everything is a potential danger, then to us, to our nervous system, we always have to be on alert. We can't just turn it off. And at the same time, we struggle to do the things that would help us ease up on the stress. And even more than that, we're afraid to ease up on the stress. How many times have you felt like if you relax, that is the guarantee that something is going to go wrong and you won't be ready for it? That is the spin cycle that we are in when we are in a chronic state of hypervigilance and scanning for danger. We never get to relax. And then as a result, the number 2 thing I want to talk about is our baseline for what is quote unquote normal gets completely warped. Not normal in the sense of atypical versus neurotypical. Not normal in the sense of maybe. Now, when I say not normal, I'm not talking about the difference between atypical and neurotypical. I'm talking between the difference of really challenging and actually dangerous. This to me brings to mind of the metaphor of the frog in the pot of boiling water. The frog gets put in the pot when it's tepid, And as the temperature increases, it doesn't really notice it until the pot is boiling. And here, the boiling pot is autism parenting, and we are the frogs. When you live at an 8 out of a 10 on the stress scale every single day, you stop recognizing it as an 8. It just becomes your life. So when things do escalate to a 10, it doesn't feel that different. You think like, okay, like it's a little bit more than usual, but in reality, the whole thing, the 8 and the 10, is off the charts for what most people would consider. I mean, that's the thing about life, and especially about stress. You really do acclimate to whatever the level is that you are living in, to a point where it is your normal. And so I remember when my son was first admitted to an inpatient autism hospital and the doctor was remarking on his presentation as severe, I was pretty shocked, and I really just didn't see it, because for me, all of the things that the doctor thought of as being on the severe end of the spectrum were just a Tuesday for me. I had acclimated to it. And so I really didn't see sort of how off-center we had gotten, even for a family dealing with a complex diagnosis. This was a medical director of an autism inpatient center who was saying this to me. So thinking about what he saw over the course of his year, as he told me, I see hundreds of children with autism every year. And here is what I'm telling you. That was really pretty shocking to me, but also it was really helpful to see that. That was really shocking to me because, again, it was my normal. My baseline was so sort of warped that I couldn't even see it. And that's what happens. You get desensitized, your baseline gets warped, and there is so much you can't see because you are inside of it. And when you're living it every single day, you lose your frame of reference for what is reasonable, what is sustainable, and then what is actually dangerous. And this leads me to the next point, which is that sometimes these never-ending challenges force us to tolerate and endure more than is reasonable, even under our circumstances. Maybe it has so warped your sense of normal that you are living in burnout and you don't even recognize it. Or you are living in a situation that is genuinely unsafe because it had happened gradually, because each day was just a little bit harder than the last, because every time that you did ask for help, you were told, oh, this is normal, or they will grow out of it. You have adapted. You have told yourself, this is just my life. That good old suck it up buttercup, right? And look, I get it. That toughness, that resilience serves us in a lot of ways. But there is a difference between being resilient to rising to the challenges that life presents and then tolerating things that really are unreasonable or that really do require a greater level of intervention than we ourselves can provide. And there is a difference between resilience and refusing to acknowledge when you are drowning. There's a difference between being strong and ignoring every signal that your body sends you that you need help, that something needs to change. I get it. The line between what is normal for us under our circumstances and what has crossed the line, it's a fine line. It's tricky to see, but what I want to urge you all to do is to be on the lookout for it. I think that so many of us get calloused by this journey and we get into the mindset of, oh, this is just my life and I have no other choice. That in addition to managing some really challenging and complex situations on a day-to-day basis, that we don't even clock it anymore for ourselves because we've told ourselves that this is just how it is. And so stepping back from that a little bit, because when you do that, you are not even listening to yourself at that point. You're not listening to your body. You're not taking your own signals seriously. You're just burying everything and saying, I just need to get through tomorrow. If this is where you are, I get it. I have been there, and you are not alone. The autism parenting journey is complex, and it can be really isolating, especially when you're dealing with times of, sustained stress and acuity. You can feel like you are the only one going through this. I can assure you that you are not. You are not alone. And even though it is normal for you, it's not normal for any human being to live with the sustained stress that we do without having help, without having support. And so if any of this episode felt familiar to you, if you resonated with any of it, I want you to check in with yourself. Has the pendulum swung too far in any of these directions? Are you living on the edge of the extremes? Is your nervous system stuck in overdrive? Has your baseline for normal gotten so warped that you can't even tell when things have crossed a line into potentially dangerous? If so, I urge you to drop the suck it up buttercup, drop the story that this is just your life and you have no choice. You are deserving of your own attention and your own care, because this is hard. It does change us, and we need every ounce of our strength and energy and resilience to ride the waves of autism parenting for the long term. That does not come from suck it up buttercup. It comes from stopping, pausing, asking for help, and recognizing this is too much and I don't want to carry it alone. Maybe this means going to the doctor, finding a therapist, or finding a community. For me, it was a little bit of all of that, but the most powerful thing by far was learning how to step back from all of these experiences and separate what was happening and how I was responding to it. I had gotten so trigger happy when it came to my son's meltdowns that I was flipping out before he was. That is how far off center my regulation was. And being able to see that and understand what was happening and do the work for myself of taking better care of myself mentally and emotionally is essentially what enabled me to survive several years of acute stress and acute aggression with my own kiddo. That doesn't mean that things don't continue. That doesn't mean that things got easier or that the problems evaporated. It really just meant that I had a better understanding of how far off center I was and where to ask for help and when to let the help me. And so I'm going to end this episode by saying you are not alone in this. You do not have to do this alone, and you can reach out to help. If there's nobody else in your life that you think that you can talk to about this, I want you to email me at lisa@theautismmomcoach.com, and I promise that I will respond. All right, everyone, have a great week, and I will talk to you next. Thanks for listening to the Autism Mom Coach. If you are ready to apply the principles you are learning in these episodes to your life, it is time to schedule a consultation call with me. Podcasts are great, but the ahas are fleeting. Real change comes from application and implementation, and this is exactly what we do in my one-on-one coaching program. To schedule your consultation, go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, work with me, and take the first step to taking better care of yourself so that you can show up as the parent you want to be for your child with autism.